In this video, we cover an emerging contaminant known to us as microplastics. Plastic debris can come in all shapes and sizes, but those that are less than 5 millimeters in length or about the size of a sesame seed are called microplastics. These can be harmful to our oceans and aquatic life, and the research overall in this area is still very much in the infancy stage about the potential harm it may cause to human health. It's therefore an emerging contaminant, and as consumers, it becomes our collective responsibility to stay engaged, informed, and to make wise choices. So where does it come from? Well, it comes from a variety of sources like larger plastic debris that degrades into smaller and smaller pieces. In addition, microbeads, a type of microplastic, are very tiny pieces of manufactured polyethylene plastic that are added as exfoliants to health and beauty products. These tiny particles easily pass through water filtration systems and they end up in our water bodies. Now, in 2015, the United States banned plastic microbeads in cosmetic and personal care products. In 2015, oceanographers estimated that there were about 15 trillion and 51 trillion microplastic particles floating in surface waters worldwide. These tiny pieces could take decades or even more to degrade fully. The problem is only going to grow. Almost 400 million tons of plastics are produced each year, and a mass projected to more than double by 2050. So even if all plastic production were magically stopped tomorrow, existing plastic in landfills and the environment, a mass which is estimated at around 5 billion tons, would continue degrading into tiny fragments that are impossible to collect or even clean up, constantly raising the levels of microplastics. The larger microplastics are more likely to exert negative effects, if any, through chemical toxicity. Manufacturers add compounds like plasticizers, stabilizers, and pigments to plastics. And many of these substances are hazardous. So for example, they interfere with our endocrine or the hormonal systems in our bodies. But whether ingesting microplastics significantly raises our exposure to these chemicals depends on how quickly they move out of the plastic specks and how fast the specks travel through our bodies, factors that researchers are only beginning to study. Synthetic clothing, on the other hand, sheds microplastics in wash cycles that discharge into sewers, fragments rub off from car tires, and ever-increasing plastic waste crumbles into more and more of these nasty tiny particles. All of these particles can ultimately wind up in our waterways that provide drinking water to millions and millions around the world. Trillions of microplastic particles are floating on the surface of the world's oceans, weighing at least about 100,000 tons, as some estimates state. That doesn't include the unknown quantities in freshwater rivers and lakes, or the particles that have sunk into the ocean, washed ashore, or have been consumed by marine life, which ends up in the food chain of many around the world. Well, we know that this is a huge problem. It's just a matter of time so that there's enough data for research and toxicological studies and development around this research and this important topic. So it's quite a bit of an effort before sound regulatory standards can be built around it. In the meantime, however, as the saying goes, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. We can do our part in doing away with these single-use plastics and changing basic behaviors like using glass bottles instead of a plastic bottle. Not only will you be doing your part in protecting your health, the health of your loved ones, but more importantly, you will be protecting the water quality of our water bodies for generations to come. And as I like to call it, we've got to do this since we only have this one water for one world.